mic's working, it's not working. Nope. Nope. Oh, talk loud. My mic is not working.
Okay. Everything is on. Yeah, none of them. Same. Okay, so this does function as a microphone, so we should still be able to proceed.
Okay.
But definitely, I'll have my earphones in and try to monitor the audio levels.
Okay.
So, perhaps we do a test with the Zoom participants too, if they can hear us.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's her name's work? Does that one work?
No, none of
No,
them.
mine doesn't work.
They're all offline.
Yeah.
No talking tonight.
Exactly.
What are you gonna do?
I can actually hear through the live stream because this mic is live.
Okay.
So, but yes, if we could do a test for the Zoom participants, that would be great.
So how do we do that test?
So I've got a couple here still. Andrew and
Just his.
Joe, can you confirm if you can hear us?
Good evening, it's Andrew. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Just barely, but yes, I can.
Okay. We'll have to speak loudly.
Yes. We're having some technical difficulties, but we'll muddle through.
Oh, no worries. I know those things happen every once in a while.
Okay, so we will get started. This is our December 7th meeting for the Strathroy-Caradoc Committee of Adjustments. So the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc acknowledges that it is located on Treaty 21 territory. We are thankful to the generations of people who have taken care of this land, including the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, and the Oneida Nation of the Thames. We'll go to Eva for our roll call.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Eva Baker. I'm the Acting Secretary Treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment. I will be hosting the meeting and managing participants. Committee members joining us this evening include Member Kennis, Member Kumar, Member Vian, Member Pelkman, Member McGuire, Member Derbyshire, and Member Terpstra, who is also our Chair. Municipal staff in attendance this evening are Jennifer Huff, Director of Building and Planning, Aaron Besh, Planner with the County of Middlesex, and Brianna from the Legal and Legislative Services team. I would like to acknowledge that at this time we have 4 individuals in attendance in person this evening and 2 participants joining us virtually. Tonight we have 4 applications to be heard by the committee. The chair will introduce each application and provide the applicant and agent an opportunity to speak to the application. The planner will follow with their report. The public will then be invited to make comments or ask questions about the application. The chair will then call upon the committee to ask questions and make comments before the chair calls for a vote on the application. Once a decision is made, there is a 20-day appeal period from the date of decision for minor variances and 20 days from the date of notice of decision for consents. If anyone wishes to be notified of the decision, you can make a request today or make a written request following this meeting. For our virtual participants, please ensure your name is visible on your Zoom video, and we ask that you keep yourself muted until it is your turn to speak. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is the approval of the agenda. And the recommendation for the adjustment agenda to be approved. Gail, seconded by Brian. All in favor? That carries. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we're moving on. A reading and correction or approval of the minutes. Is there anyone had a chance to read the minutes? Any omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, then I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Steve, seconded by Frank. All in favor, raise your hand. That carries. Okay, then we are into submissions for consideration. The first one is application for minor variance A30-2023 for 21624 Adelaide Road. And the owner is a numbered company. Is there anyone to speak on behalf in our gallery today? Yes? And your name, sir?
Greg Patrick.
Greg Patrick, okay. I'll have Aaron do a report, and if you have any comments, we can add that later.
I already forgot. Okay. Thank you, Chair. So this first application before committee this evening is an application to permit an expansion to a legal non-conforming use under section 42(2) of the Planning Act. So the application is intended to facilitate the construction of a 47.7 square meter addition onto an existing industrial building for storage purposes. The property itself is approximately 1 acre in size. It has about 60 meters of frontage on Adelaide Road, or County Road 81. There's an existing industrial building that is currently occupied by Redrick Technologies. They focus on the sales, assembly, and warehousing of specialized ergonomic office furniture. So this is not actually a permitted use under the A4 agricultural industrial zone. However, the business was in operation prior to this current bylaw, so it is deemed a legal non-conforming use as per the definitions in our official plan and our zoning bylaw. So while these types of uses are not permitted under the zone, they are allowed to continue. They are restricted, however, to the existing structures on the property. However, section 42(2) of the Planning Act does give the Committee of Adjustment the responsibility or the authority to approve expansions or enlargements to these types of uses. The applicant advised that the addition will be 16 meters by 2.98 meters in size. It'll be a metal-clad structure that is approximately 2.5 meters in height. The structure will be attached to the western side of the existing building. It'll be 8.38 meters from the side lot line, and access to the addition would be from the exterior of the building. So the application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. I did not receive any concerns from our internal departments. I did receive a comment from the Ministry of Transportation, and they identified that this property is within the MTO's permit control area, which just means that at time of building permit, the applicant would be required to get an MTO permit as well. But they did not have any concerns with the application before committee. I did also receive a comment from a neighbor whose house is across the road from the property. The committee has been circulated with that email that we were sent. Their concern was with a lighting from the existing structure filtering across Adelaide Road and illuminating their property. The owner has advised that there will be no additional lighting that will be added as part of this addition, and that the offending light source, I suppose, has been, there's been mitigation attempts. They've replaced the light with downward facing light that is not as bright. I did advise the landowner across the road of this comment, and I did advise that if he wishes to approach the business, if there's a further mitigation that needs to be done, then to go through the business itself. But as for this application with no additional lighting that's being installed, I think that's sort of outside the scope of this application. So the analysis for a expansion to a legal non-conforming use is slightly different than what we usually see for minor variances, which addresses the 4 tests of minor variance. So it's slightly different criteria. It ultimately is asking the same thing: what sort of impacts will there be, and adjacent landowners, is there going to be any land use conflicts and things of that nature. So my analysis is included in my report. I won't go through all of it, but I did find that the proposal meets the criteria provided in the official plan. So my recommendation this evening is for approval of the application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Greg, do you have any further comments to that?
No.
Yep. Okay. Any comments or questions by committee members? Right.
I just had a question, and it's more, I guess, just a generalized thing about the MTO permit that he will have to go for. Is that I just was trying to figure out it's because of his distance to the 402. So then he only needs that for the sign and not for the sign permit? Or does he have to get a sign permit too?
Through the chair to Member Derbyshire, I did include all of the comments from the MTO. Likely there would be no additional signage, I would assume, Greg, as part of this addition.
Right.
I think the sign permit is sort of a standard condition that they would add. But in this case, I think the land use permit would be the only thing that would be required.
And is it much of a financial ramification or?
No, it's, I don't recall the exact cost, but it's, I think some of them are free.
Any other questions? Yes, Mike?
Yeah. So my question through you, Chair, is this addition almost appears as if it's a type of a mini storage. So my question is the addition complementary to the business that's currently going on in the building? Or is this providing him access to a new undertaking?
I understood it was to the existing business, but Aaron can probably answer that.
Perhaps I can direct that comment to Mr. Patrick, if that's
Sure.
acceptable.
It's complementary to the businesses going on there now. Basically, what it's going to allow us to do is to take pallets that are wrapped and ready to ship and move them off of the floor area that we use inside and put them outside, just behind a series of garage doors, so that we can store them there for usually about a week until they're ready to pick up. So it's just forklift traffic out, put the pallets in, and take them out when the truck's ready to pick them up. And there'll be no connection from that storage place directly into the building. So it's just like an outside garage, basically.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, sir. Any further questions from the committee? And seeing none, they're looking for an approval. I need someone to support that. Steve, and a seconder by Mike. All in favor? And that carries. That's been approved.
From today, the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making an application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeal has been made following 20 days, the minor variance declaration will be issued.
Okay, then moving on to the next item number 5.2, application for minor variance A31, 2023, 8607 Glengyle Drive. And I believe we've seen this at committee level before, this property. And do we have anyone in the audience for this one?
Michelle Kettler.
Michelle Cutler? Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Aaron, can I ask you to give the report on this one?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. So you are correct. This is a property that the committee has seen relatively recently in August of this year. The application that is before committee this evening is requesting to permit a cumulative floor area of all accessory structures of 228 square meters, whereas 119 square meters is permitted given the ground floor area of the existing home. The application also requests to permit a height of 5.2 meters, whereas a maximum height of 4.5 meters is permitted for residential accessory structures. And finally, the application requests to permit a front yard setback of 15 meters, whereas a minimum front yard depth of 20 meters is required in the A2 zone. So similar to the initial application, the landowners are requesting to build a detached garage. The applicant has advised that the purpose of this structure is for personal storage of a trailer, boat, 2 antique vehicles, and some everyday vehicles as well. So the property is approximately 0.34 hectares in size with 55 meters of frontage along Glengyle. There is an existing single detached dwelling with an attached garage, and the property has private servicing. So originally the application came forward with a residential accessory unit within the structure. The application, of course, was not approved at the committee, so the applicants have come forward with this revised application. The structure itself has been reduced in size. It has been pushed further off the property line to 6.1 meters. The applicants have also engaged a consultant to design a drainage plan for the property and for the structure. as the committee's concerns from the original meeting were that there was already a drainage issue, and they didn't want to exacerbate that situation. So the application was circulated. No concerns were received. The property is regulated under the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, and as similar to the previous application, they advised of no concerns, but did advise that the structure would require a permit under the Conservation Authority. I did also receive, similar to the first application, we did receive a comment from the neighbor at 8617 Glengyle. Their concern again was to deal with the drainage on the property. My senior development coordinator, who is more versed in stormwater management and drainage and that sort of thing, he spoke with them and talked at length about the plan that the applicant has provided, and they seem satisfied that that will be sufficient. So that hopefully has alleviated their concerns, and to ensure that the drainage plan is followed, I have listed it as a condition as well. For tests of minor variance, I am satisfied that it does meet the 4 tests. Although the structure is located closer to the front lot line than what is permitted, it is in line with the existing house, so it'll be no closer to the front lot line than what is existing. The height increase is not of a concern, and the size increase as well. I am of the opinion that it's in line with other similar structures in the area, and is not larger than what can be considered sort of a rural accessory structure. So my analysis and conclusion this evening is a recommendation on the application with the condition that the applicant implement the drainage plan designed by Boss Engineering and Environmental Services, Inc., which was provided to the municipality as part of the minor variance application, and that's to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Michelle, have you any further comments to that?
No, not at this time.
Very good. Any comments, questions from committee members? Steve?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's going to be 2 driveways then on this property, and is that allowed?
Through the chair to Member Pelkman, as per the provisions in our zoning bylaw, it is permitted. The roads department has no concerns with issuing an additional driveway at this location, and it's all based in the rural area. It's based on your length of frontage, and a frontage of this length does qualify for 2 driveways.
Okay. Any other questions by committee members? Seeing none, we're looking for an approval with 1 condition, and motion made by Mike, supported by Randy. All in favor? And that passes.
From today, the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or a prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making an application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeal has been made following 20 days, the minor variance declaration will be issued.
Okay, then moving on to 5.3, the application for minor variance A32-2023, the corner of Troops Road and Park House Drive. Is there anyone in the audience on this? No.
We have one on Zoom.
On Zoom,
Yeah.
okay. And who do we have on Zoom?
The applicant, Joe.
Joe? Okay. Aaron, would you like to do your report on this one?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to share my screen here. There we go. Okay, so the next application before committee this evening requests permission for an exterior side yard depth of 13.85 meters, whereas 15 meters is required in the R5 zone. And further that the application requests to permit a rear yard depth of 13.62 meters, whereas 15 meters is also required in the R5 zone. Finally, the application is looking for a lot coverage increase to 13.4%, whereas a maximum of 10% is permitted in the R5 zone. The applicant is looking to construct a single detached dwelling, which is a single-story, 3-car garage, and this is at the corner of Troops and Park House Drive. The lands were originally severed as part of a 2020 consent application from the parcel at 22606 Troops Road. The lands were also subject to a minor variance at that time, which recognized a reduced lot area and reduced frontage for the severed lot. The lands are currently vacant, and the applicant is proposing to construct a 242.2 square meter single detached dwelling. It would be privately serviced. There is an existing well on the property, and they have proposed a new septic system. The applicant has actually provided a design plan for that septic system to demonstrate that the lands can actually accommodate the increased lot coverage as well as the required on-site services with appropriate setbacks. So through this minor variance application, we are looking for a reduced exterior side yard depth and a reduced rear yard depth. The purpose of these variances is to accommodate sort of a larger house than what would be generally under the 10% of a lot of this size. I did want to point out, Member Polkman did ask earlier, the reason why we cannot push the structure further towards the other property is because there is an existing well, and that the applicant is proposing to use that well as part of their build. So the application was circulated. The Director of Engineering and Public Works advised that the municipality is currently in the design phase of reconstructing the intersection of Troops and Park House Drive. As the proposed front yard reduction does not impact this plan, there are no concerns from the roads or the Public Works Department. The chief building official also reviewed the proposed septic design that was provided and did not have any concerns. And I did not receive any comments or concerns from the public on this application. So I did want to note my evaluation of the 4 tests, primarily with the dwelling not being a sightline concern by moving closer to Park House Drive. It will not impact future construction plans and will not cause a safety concern. So in terms of the rear yard setback reduction, the house on the lot behind is set back quite a significant different distance, and there is sort of a tree line here or a shrub line here that would act as a buffer between the 2 uses. So I do not have a concern that the privacy would be impacted on the neighboring property. So in conclusion, my recommendation this evening is for approval with no conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Erin. And Joe, do you have any comments to add to that? No?
He's muted. So.
Okay. No? We're hearing none. Any questions from the committee? Comments? None. Seeing none, then I'm looking for a motion. Frank, supported by Dale. All in favor? And that carries.
From today, the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making an application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeal has been made following 20 days, the minor variance declaration will be issued.
Okay, thank you. And our next item for consideration is 5.4, and it's an application for consent B 2023 and minor variances 28/2023 and 29/2023 for 700 Adair Boulevard. Also a numbered company. Anyone in the audience for that one?
No, we have one on Zoom. It's Andrew Walker.
Okay, welcome Andrew. And Erin, if you can do your report on that one.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going going to share my screen. Okay. So the next kind of group of applications before committee, we are looking for 3 separate applications. The first being a consent to separate the 2 pieces of land that are shown on the location map. We are asking to sever the north portion of the property on Adair Boulevard and retain the yellow square at the bottom there. To facilitate this consent, the applicant has also submitted 2 applications. The first, for minor variance, is to permit a lot area of 20 hectares for the lands to be severed and a minimum lot area of 9 hectares for the lands to be retained, whereas the minimum lot area for lands in the future development zone is as they lawfully existed as of the day of the passing of the bylaw. So I'll get a little bit more into that. The subject lands as a whole are approximately 29.55 hectares in size. The property has frontage on three roads. We have 2nd Street, Adair Boulevard, and Wright Street at the north portion of the property. The southern portion of the lands are vacant and largely in agricultural production, and the northern portion of the property is naturally vegetated, and some of which has been identified as natural heritage system within the county official plan and woodland within the Strathroy-Caradoc official plan. So the woodlands themselves would be completely contained on the lands to be severed. The majority of the subject lands are also located within the 1 kilometer noise sensitivity area of Highway 402. And there is the noise abatement policies that really are relevant to the 1 kilometer noise sensitivity area have to do with residential uses rather than industrial or commercial. So the applicant, again, is proposing to sever the northern portion of the lands for the purposes of selling the lands for industrial uses. The entirety of the subject lands are designated industrial within the Strathroy-Caradoc official plan. However, the southern portion, the yellow portion on the location map, have an additional special policy area which state that the lands can also be used for purposes permitted within the commercial designation of the official plan. So the intent is really to separate the lands that have the special policy area and the special commercial provisions from the strictly industrial lands to the north. I won't go through all of my policy and regulation. You can read that in my report. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The County Safety and Standards Officer did provide a comment stating that the lands to the south should be given a municipal 911 address, whereas the lands to the north would retain the 700 Adair Boulevard address. The Ministry of Transportation advised that this property is outside of their permit control area, so no permit would be required at time of development. And Enbridge Gas advised that there are service lines running in this area, and if the severance is to impact any of those lines, they're to be relocated at the cost of the landowner. So in terms of the severance itself, I'm of the opinion that the creation of an additional industrial lot would provide for further development within the Molnar Industrial Park, and it is generally in compliance with our policy documents. Most of the criteria that falls within our official plan can be dealt with at site plan stage and is not relevant to the consent application itself. Usually when we do severances for lot creation, we require the severed lands to be serviced. However, similar to an application we had recently, we're of the opinion that industrial servicing is very specific to the needs of the business, and to require servicing at this time is likely not appropriate. So it would be required at the time of future development of the lands. And specifically with the future development zone that the entire property falls within, it's unique in the law requirements in that they're all as they exist on the day of the passing of the zoning bylaw. So this is an attempt to recognize what is on the lands currently and allow the uses to continue while reserving the lands for future development opportunities. Because this consent proposes to sever the lots into two, the lot area would obviously be altered and would no longer meet the requirements of the FD zone. So I did evaluate the minor variances under this premise. My evaluation really stemmed on the fact that we are not altering really the intent of the FD zone, which is to reserve the lands for future development. Then this application would not, the land would continue to be reserved for development in the future. So ultimately the intent of our official plan and our zoning bylaw are maintained. So my recommendation this evening is approval of the consent subject to the 10 conditions outlined in my report, as well as approval for both of the minor variance applications. The conditions associated with the consent are standard conditions that we would see for any lot creation of this type. Aside from perhaps number 5, which requires that the owner apply for and receive approval for a Planning Act application to address the lot area requirements. That is specifically requiring them to have a minor variance application approved, which is also, of course, on the table this evening. So if the applications are approved this evening, that condition would be satisfied. And further, that number 7, the owner dedicate lands up to 15 meters from the center line of construction of 2nd Street, which is our standard county road requirement as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other comments by the owner of the property?
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee, and staff and the public. My name's Andrew Walker. I'm a principal planner with GWD Planners on behalf of the registered owner 2752894 Ontario Inc. I want to thank staff for their comprehensive presentation and staff report, and I have no additional comments with the materials that were presented to the committee. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Any questions, comments from the committee members? Frank?
So just a quick question. So it's safe to say that the consent application really just matches the zoning of the two parts of the property now? If that question made sense, what I just asked.
Through the chair to Member Kennis, you are correct, except it's the official plan. Okay. Rather than they're both zoned future development, but it's the underlying official plan designation that really is separate.
One's commercial, one's industrial.
They're both industrial, but the piece at the bottom has a special policy area that would allow for either industrial development or uses that would be permitted in the commercial designation.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Steve?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was surprised to see that the upper half of the retained portion was a significant woodlot. To me, it looks like scrub. If that's designated that way by us, can it be undesignated by us? Because that's not a forest.
So through the chair to Member Pelkman, of course that designation was created at a higher level. At time of future development, it would certainly be assessed likely differently. I think the intent is to ensure that if it's a larger part, if it's part of a larger natural heritage system, it doesn't necessarily need to be significant woodland. It could have different ecological value. That would be assessed at time of development, and it could be as simple as having an environmental consultant saying this is not a significant area, so no development assessment report would be required. However, that is part of our current official plan.
So was that us though that designated that, or was it designated that by somebody else?
It was through the county as well as Strathroy.
If I can just be clear, it's not a significant woodland, it's a natural heritage area. Right, so it doesn't meet the test of the significant woodland criteria, but it has been identifying as having natural heritage features. So that's not necessarily trees, it could be species, habitat of species at risk, or something to that effect. Because we know we've had experience where even if you let agricultural land go for too long and it becomes grassed, it becomes habitat for special species that are of consideration to the Conservation Authority, the province, and us. And so I think it's not so much on the woodland component, it's on the potential habitat for species in this area.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Right.
I'm gonna turn it on anyways. I guess mine's more of a comment in that we're gonna sever. I know it's all industrial with this one portion having a special kind of thing that we could possibly use. Are we essentially throwing away what could be a larger industrial project by allowing this to come off of the bottom and essentially this being a natural heritage up there? Whereas if it were still all one piece, maybe it doesn't all end up at this end, wherever the natural heritage is. I guess that would be my only concern is, are we essentially throwing 50 acres, not away, but, you know, I mean, I realize they would like this off for probably the commercial side of things, but as the industrial park up there, you know, should we be considering that? That's just a comment. That was just one of my thoughts on it, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or concerns? Then I'm looking for approval. There's two minor variances and a consent. So the first one is the minor variance A28-2023. Looking for someone to support that. Frank, seconded by Steve. All in favor? That carries. The next one is the application for minor variance 29-2023. Looking for someone to support that one. Also Frank, supported by Mike. All in favor? And that carries. And then the application for consent B 2023, also for approval. Mike, supported by Steve. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you.
Shortly following this meeting, a notice of decision will be issued, at which point the 20-day appeal period will begin. During this time, either the applicant or prescribed public body can appeal the decision made by the committee by making application to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If no appeal has been made following the 20 days, the consent and minor variance declarations will be issued.
Okay, thank you, Eva. And on to item number 6, any unfinished business? No, don't see any. Any inquiries by members? Yes, Steve?
I'd just like to take the moment to thank the planning staff. I know that throughout the year they got to have a lot of difficult conversations with probably some people who are pretty frustrated as they have to learn how to navigate these rules, and just like to thank them very much, and as this is our last meeting, to wish them a good holiday season, as well as to the other committee members.
Thank you, Steve. Number 8, any other business? Schedule of meetings, Eva's got a comment on this one.
So I know I recently sent an email out to committee members. However, in the last little while, due to the volume of meetings scheduled in January for staff, my recommendation is that we cancel the January meeting and have the first meeting of the year in February, first Thursday of February instead, just due to the volume of meetings that we have on the books right now. So if committee is agreeable to that, then we would need to pass a resolution to.
Just a question on it, we're not holding up anybody
No.
in a major
So
way or anything like that?
There were 2 applications that were tentatively scheduled for January, and we have consulted with both of them, and they are both agreeable to moving it to February, so.
Okay, so then
And
I
I'm good with the motion for that.
making the resolution, okay? Supported by Dale, all in favor? And that passes. And looking for adjournment, I need someone to adjourn, Frank, supported by Dale, all in favor? We're adjourned, and Merry Christmas, everyone, Happy New Year.